Welcome back to our study, and you're watching the Hebrew point of view, and we are talking about the development of the idea of the devil, Satan, Lucifer, and we've been looking at the historical backgrounds that influenced Jewish thought with regard to the personification of a person or a being in opposition to God.
Okay, so now we're going to go and deal with the Hellenistic influence on Jewish theology. And in your book you write here, the encounter between ancient Israel and Hellenistic culture introduced new philosophical categories and ways of thinking about divine agency and evil. While earlier Hebrew traditions emphasized strict monotheism, the Hellenistic period encouraged more dualistic patterns of thought, influenced in part by Greek philosophy and broader Near Eastern ideas. Explain.
Okay, let's begin with what is the Hellenistic period.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure some of you listening to this don't know.
Or maybe never heard of it.
Right. So, the last time we were here talking, we were in the Babylonian exilic period and post-exilic period, which is
1239.
Which is the Achaemenid Empire, which went into the Persian Empire under Cyrus the Great. Mm-hmm. So Cyrus the Great's Persian Empire continues on until efforts to defeat the Greeks failed numerous times and weakened the Persian Empire to the point that Alexander the Great then marched into the ancient Near East and eventually and ultimately defeated Babylon. And the Greeks became the power of influence in the ancient Near East and in what we call the known world at that point in time. And Hellenistic simply refers to the Greek period.
Yeah.
So we had spoken about the influences of the Persian period, the influences of Zoroastrianism upon Judaism. Now the Persians are gone, and a new empire comes in with new thoughts under a new conqueror. When Alexander the Great marches into Babylon, he is not opposed, but he is welcomed the same way as Cyrus was welcomed. And he was appointed as the legitimate head of the Babylonian Empire and of Babylon. And so he comes in with the same authority that Cyrus came in with. So his influences are not opposed, but are kind of generally accepted. Now remember, there are still Jews living in Babylon. And Judaism is still developing and still growing. And books have been written, the prophets are prophesying. And the Greek influence starts to now rub off on the Jews. How? What were the Greeks known for?
Weren't they known for their body?
Well, not really. The Greek statues show all of the fit bodies, and they were into sports and all the rest of it.
Very much into the physical type of things.
But most of all, the Greeks were known for being thinkers.
Oh yeah.
Now remember, Judaism is a practical religion, and the Jews and the Hebrews are practical. They relate to things in a practical way. The Greeks were thinkers, philosophers, the greatest of which is Plato. And you've all heard of Plato.
Yeah.
And Greek philosophy now starts to influence the way people are thinking. Now, you say, well, the Jews had their religion, and so the Greeks had their religion. How can the two affect each other? Well, when you are living in a country, living in a city that's influenced by other things, influences do rub off on you. You do get the hardliners that will never change. Thank God for them, because they maintain the truth. But you get a vast majority of people who are open to influence. And the thinking starts to change in terms of philosophical ideas. The Greeks thought extensively on good versus evil. The philosophy of good and truth versus the philosophy of evil and lies.
So they had a philosophy of dualism, basically.
It wasn't a dualistic religious institution, but it was dualistic thought in this, basically in the heavenlies, in the cosmos. You know, they were thinking in terms of good and evil and opposing forces, and were philosophizing and coming up with ideas and thoughts on how this can be and what causes good and what causes, and all of the thinking. And this now, on top of what had already happened under Zoroastrianism, starts to bring new, just new shades of thinking, new nuances of ideas and thinking into Jewish thought processes and Jewish understanding and interpretation of scriptures. And so they start thinking about good and evil. And so this good and evil thing begins to grow and gather momentum and gain substance, whereas before it didn't exist.
But they're thinking more in the spiritual realm, aren't they?
In the intellectual realm.
In the intellectual, okay. Yeah.
So the Greeks are intellectuals. And Plato, the philosopher, was an intellectual. All the Greek philosophers, they were thinking about things and creating theories about stuff. And remember, the Greeks are ruling not only the ancient Near East, but they ruled Israel and Jerusalem at the same time. You just got to go and read Maccabees. We all know the stories of Maccabees and Hanukkah. That all took place under the Greeks.
So you write here, in this Hellenistic context, Jewish writers began reworking older traditions, and as already noted, texts like Enoch and Jubilees are examples. In these texts, evil becomes externalized, and so instead of God being the source of adversity, the blame shifts to rebellious angels or demonic leaders.
Very important. So this is the way their thinking was going.
So it really did shift.
Yeah, read that again. This is really important to understand the way things are developing. This is history.
Yeah.
It's recorded history. Remember, the answers are out there. If you have a question, you can find the answer. Everybody can find the answers. You just got to go and look. You've got to go and study. You've got to go and research. This is all fact. Historical fact, biblical fact.
This is fact, and I can tell you, I looked this up on Google and I found these facts because I wanted to make sure that.
If you want to do the shortcut, you can take any of these things we're talking about and Google them.
Yeah, you can.
Or chat GPT them, or whatever you want to do, and you can find answers. But there's nothing like doing proper research.
But the point I'm trying to make is that it's not. This is not something new. This is history.
Yeah, it's history.
In this Hellenistic context, Jewish writers began reworking older traditions. And as already noted, texts like 1 Enoch and Jubilees are examples. In these texts, evil becomes externalized, and so instead of God being the source of adversity, the blame shifts to rebellious angels or demonic leaders.
Okay, what are the books of Enoch and Jubilees? They come from what we call the Apocrypha, the apocryphal writings. These are intertestamental writings between the two testaments. If we're talking about this period of time where apocalyptic literature is growing and becoming more and more prevalent, and we have these writings, they are not included in the Bible, but if you have a Bible with an Apocrypha, you have these books, as well as the book of Maccabees and all of the other apocryphal writings. Why are they important? Although they were not included in the canon of the Old Testament, they are important because it tells us how people were thinking
Those days, yeah.
in those days. Not just people, Jewish leaders, scholars, they were thinking this way. The writers, they were writing these things. And they didn't meet the requirements to be included in the canon of the Old Testament, but they were important writings. And we see in these writings how evil suddenly is taking on a personality.
So you do mention Mastema and Belial appear as organized heads of evil forces, moving closer to what Satan will become. So Mastema serves as the angel of hostility, and then Belial, is that how I said?
Belial, yeah.
Belial is the term occurring in the Hebrew Bible, which later became personified as the devil in Christian texts of the New Testament. Just a bit of information there.
So these two names out of this literature, this intertestamental literature, Mastema and Belial, and we've heard of the name Belial because we've seen it in our New Testament.
Yeah.
But these names came straight out of this intertestamental apocalyptic literature.
Interesting. Yeah.
And they became forms or personified forms of evil or an evil opponent to God. So what is happening here, it's what starts off in the Hebrew Bible in the beginning as an adversary, just an opponent. You know, David is called an adversary. David is called Hasatan when he is fighting with when he was part of the Philistine army, when he was hiding from Saul, and they're going to go into battle against Israel, and the generals say, maybe David should not go with us because fighting against his own people, he may turn on us, and he may become Hasatan to us.
The adversary.
He may become our adversary instead of our supporter.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the way it was used in those days. So from being an adversary, suddenly we have this development of the thought that adversary is now becoming personified, becoming a being that is now opposing God's operations in the world, opposing God's influences, causing people to veer from obedience to the word to disobedience to the word.
And you carry on saying the Hellenistic influence is important. Not because the Greeks invented Satan, but because their intellectual environment made systematic dualism and cosmic conflict more thinkable and narratively compelling.
Right. So that's important.
That is important.
It explained these things to the Jews. That's basically, we make it more thinkable. So the Hellenistic philosophical approach began to explain these things in an intellectual way that could be more easily understood. And people were saying, now I see what that could mean. And that's the Hellenistic influence upon Jewish thought.
And this development represents a combination of early trends, the need to explain evil without compromising divine goodness.
Right, theodicy.
Yeah, right, combined with a Hellenistic influenced readiness to imagine structured opposition within the cosmos. Yeah.
To explain evil without compromising God's goodness.
Interesting.
Yeah, and this was a question, this was a serious question, and this is the question that leads us on in this growth and development of what eventually becomes the personification of evil and the opponent to God, who we refer to as Satan or the devil.
And the Hellenistic culture didn't directly create Satan, but it reshaped the conceptual toolkit available to Jewish thinkers and encouraged more explicit cosmic dualism, greater use of intermediary spiritual beings and narrative frameworks of conflict and opposition.
So that it may be a little bit confusing the way it's written there, but it gave them the tools, basically, to interpret some of these things that they'd been wrestling with for so long, some of these understandings of evil this Hellenistic way of thinking gave them the tools, provided the intellectual toolkit for them to now start processing some of this information and coming up with conclusions.
Yeah, still subordinate to God, he now clearly opposes him in a way that did not exist in pre-exilic Israel theology, Israelite theology.
Yeah, and there again, the difference between pre-exilic literature and post-exilic literature.
Yeah, because that's a concept difference.
Pre-exilic literature, there was no Satan, devil, opponent to God.
Personified.
Nowhere.
Yeah.
He didn't exist.
Yeah.
Post-exilic, he starts to appear and starts to grow and starts to appear as a being other than a function.
So here's something interesting. You say here 3 Greek gods bear mention in this time, in this Hellenistic time, correct?
Yeah.
And they are Hermes, Pan, and Hades.
Yeah. So why are these gods important? Hermes, he was the god that ushered people into
the underworld.
The wings and the Caduceus, the snake wound around the staff.
Yeah.
Pan was his son, the son of Hermes.
Yeah.
Pan or Pan is important. We're going to get to this god later, the god Pan, because this god was worshipped in Israel in the time of Jesus. Remember when Jesus went up with the disciples to Caesarea Philippi to a place called
the
Panias.
Panias, that's right. Into a cave or something.
At Panias, there was a temple built to the god Pan, and also one built to the Roman emperor. But the temple to the god Pan, and Pan was worshipped in Panias. Today it's called Banias. And at Banias there was a cave, a dark cave out of which a spring. There was a underwater or a underground spring that came out of there and flowed out of the cave. And underground deep waters is always connected to the underworld in the ancient Near Eastern thinking. But the important part of this is that cave was the entrance to the underworld, in which Hades, the other god, lived. So kind of like our modern idea of Satan living in hell and being the king and the god of hell, Hades lived in a place called Hades, named after him, and you had to enter Hades through this cave.
So he ruled the realm of underworld.
But I want to tell you something really important. It's very interesting. That cave, that opening was called the gates of hell.
Yeah.
Do you remember when
I remember that.
Peter says, Jesus says to Peter, who do men say that I, the Son of Man, am? And Peter answers Jesus and says, you are the Christ, the Messiah, the Son of the God who lives.
Opposing.
And why does he say that? Because this area was where Pan was worshipped, in Panias. And Peter is saying, you are the Messiah, the Son of the God who lives, as opposed to this place, this God of this place, who's a God who doesn't live. He's a dead God. He's a pagan deity that doesn't exist. That's what Peter was saying. And Jesus says to him, blessed are you, Simon Bar-Jonah, for flesh and blood has not revealed this to you, but my Father in heaven.
Yeah.
And the gates of hell.
Which was that place.
Yeah, he says, you are Petros, a rock, but you will be Peter, Selah, a solid, big foundational rock upon which I will build my congregation. And the gates of hell, and he refers to the cave, the entrance to Hades.
Interesting.
He says, and the gates of hell, the lies that surround these Greek gods, will never prevail against this truth that God reveals to us.
Unbelievable. Fantastic.
Yeah, I get goosebumps.
Yeah, that is absolutely fantastic. Yeah. That's incredible. So these 3 Greek gods, they actually are important.
Yeah, well, Hades is important because Hades is a type of Satan.
Yeah.
Yeah, the controller of the underworld,
Yeah.
the ruler of hell,
Yeah, exactly.
abiding in hell.
Hades
Yeah.
and hell were almost synonymous terms. In
Well,
my thinking, I don't know if it's true or not, but I used to think that. So we have done quite a lot of this book right now, and we have one more episode to do on this to conclude this book. So stay tuned, and we'll see you next time. God bless you.
And please remember, these books are available to you on Amazon. They are easy to read. I think the longest is like 70 pages.
Oh, it's very easy to read. Although I tell you what, it took me a while because I did some extra reading.
Yeah.
It's really, really good information.
Right. And ultimately, there will be 5 booklets which deal with the subject in absolute detail.
Yeah.
And don't forget my book, The Star of Babylon, which deals with the release of the Jews from Babylon by Cyrus the Great. So thank you for watching. Shalom.